With everything that's going on right now, there's a call to wear a mask whenever you're outside, whenever you have to interact with, if you have to go to a grocery store or go to somewhere where there's people congregate, which at this point it seems that everybody's just going back to like nothing's ever happened or something like that, and it's a bit nerve-wracking at times, but that's another video. What we're covering here is the idea of masks, and I've if you're on Instagram or you've looked anywhere on the internet in the last month, 6 weeks, you'll go to something and it'll have a little ad or something that'll say we're selling these masks. There's a few places that I bought masks from, and I really wanted to have something, enough of them. A, B, maybe a couple that are different, maybe that won't be like everything else. Just because that's just going to be the way it is right now. I no other reason. And there's some interesting art and artists and groups that have put out stuff. So I've bought some different masks. I'm just going to talk about them for a minute. And the first one I got was off the Instagram. It's one of those, here's an ad and for a company you never heard of, and they make cloth masks. So I, of course, being on brand, with a mask, you find out real quick how crooked your face is. So my asymmetrical face, not as much fun with a mask on because it does ride differently and it sits differently on your face. But this is just one. If you've been on Instagram, if you've been on my Instagram, I don't know how the algorithm works for different people, but this is good enough. It's not. It is cloth, so it is washable. It's not terribly breathable. The gap sits. We'll talk about glasses in a second because glasses is a completely different animal. It sits differently. So if these are all built for people on Instagram, so that you have to be like 5'5" and it fits you perfectly. I'm not. Even though I'm not tall. I'm not a giant. I'm 6'1". I'm not. But this vanity, it's pretty cool. Functionality, it's enough to get you by. It is. I wear this when I'm walking the dog, and usually there's not as many people around, so you don't really have to worry about it too much being a protection agent, more of just like a cautionary thing, right? So this one's okay. I think it kind of looks cool, but this is I've done unboxings, and actually the latest unboxing I did was the Halloween black craft stuff. And part of that order, not part of the order, but along with that, I ordered something else, and that was this, the black craft mask. Now, when I watch this and look at this thing, it's funny because the way it was sitting, it almost looks like a thong. You can't, let me put it against something white. It looked kind of like a thong, and she didn't see the front of it with the logos on it, and Eleni was like, "Oh, do you have a thong?" So yeah, it just looks like a thong. This one is approximately the same size as this. It's stitched a little bit more, which doesn't really mean a whole lot. I think the cup covers a little bit more, which is nice, but just the nice thing is that these are cloth. The bad thing is that they're cloth. They don't give as much as like elastic, but they aren't, like, for me it just feels like somebody's pressing on the back of my ears, which is odd to begin with, but it's not very comfortable. The black craft mask, if you're thinking about getting one of these, I think this might be the way to go. If you don't want to go the other route, which is what I'm about to show you, this is good enough. But again, if you're like 5'5" and you're like a smaller person, this is perfect. This is still a bit tight, but it feels pretty secure. The airflow is okay. When I say airflow, I'm talking about how it sits with my glasses. I think I think this one as just an overall one. I'd go with this one, and then they're the same price. They've all been running around $15. Now, if you want to upgrade a bit more, there's a in Houston. There's a guy, or not a guy. There's a product. Let's put that up there. Obviously, it's not sponsored. We bought all these, so these are made by someone here in Houston, and the interesting thing about these, well, let's go over the pieces. Elastic straps, not a huge fan of them, but it's also got it crinkles on the bottom. So like this is the top, so the top sits, and the bottom holds up more against your face, which is nice. With this, it feels more like something's pressing because the elastic is just holding, like pressing a gap out against you. But it's double, so that you have two layers of cloth, and there's a pocket. You can't really tell that well, but there is a pocket in there, and you can stick a tissue or a paper towel or a coffee filter inside of there, and you have 3 layers of protection. It sits pretty well. It covers a decent amount of your face. It goes from the top of your nose under your chin, which is nice, so you have that bit of coverage. For me, they're a little bit tight, which is fine, because if it's the tighter it is, the less air goes up and fogs your glasses. But I noticed if I put 2 paper towels in it, and it was almost suffocating. So I just put 1 paper towel. Sometimes I don't. If I'm just walking the dog or just going out real quick, I don't put anything in it. Now, I think overall this one's a little bit better. This is $20, so it's a little bit more, but it's more detail oriented. Now, the only thing I would want is I wish these elastic bands were about an inch longer on either side. If you gave me just an inch more, it would be a little more comfortable and it would sit. But the thing to get around that, this is something I knew that they existed because I'd seen people talk about them for a while now. This hooks on. Now there's 3 layers, 1, 2, 3. I only use the longest one, so. And I feel like a makeup blogger. Here we go. I have to show you. So it hooks on right there, and that allows the band to be so I don't have to put it around my ears. Now, ideally, you'd want to put it around your ears and hold it up here. I think it would work better if I had hair. I think a lot of things would be better if I had hair. Anyway. So what I end up doing, I wrap it around under my ear. Now, when it sits like this, it sits underneath my my eyes and on the top of my nose, so airflow isn't as much going up, but it does did the fog up. Now, if you look in the back, I don't know how well, obviously can't see, but it sits back here. And it holds against your face, and it's not pressing your ears. It's pressing your the back of your neck, so it's not as bad. It holds a little bit better with the thickness of the cloth that they use, which there are different types of cloth they sell on this, and we have a few different ones, but this is the one I use a lot. Again, it's cloth, you can wash it. This, I found it's harder to breathe, which is a good and bad thing. You don't want to sit there and breathe in everything that's around you, especially right now, obviously, but you do want to be able to breathe. This one is my go-to for going somewhere. You have to go pick up something, or mostly just, yeah, if you're doing like a curbside and you have to interact with someone because they're to come up to ask you what what's your name, what you order, whatever. Having that feels a little bit better. Have a little bit of another layer of cushion in there. Glasses. Glasses are good in as much as another layer of protection, because otherwise then your eyes are just out, and that's another way things can get in. So you have a layer of protection, but with this, covers. Everybody's gonna say put a little bit of soap, let it dry, buff it out. I've tried that. 3 different soaps, 3 different times, still nothing. Oh well, Rain-X will do that. I don't feel like spending money on Rain-X for something that may or may not work. Now I know you have a particular recipe that works perfectly and it's great. Leave it in the comments. I may try it even. I haven't gotten any of that stuff to work. The only way is you get something like, if you like have oily fingers or something and you rub the oil on the inside, then everything's smudged, but it does not fog up. But then you can't see either way. Now, as far as just masks go, who knows what'll happen? Nobody knows what's gonna happen tomorrow, let alone anything else. So these are just masks that I've acquired over the last few weeks for usage, just day-to-day stuff. Walking the dog mostly, going to get pick up food curbside. I'd spend a little bit more money and get this, especially if you're out and about. If you have to go to a grocery store or something like this, I think this is your best bet. It's harder to breathe, but that means less is getting to you. At least you hope. Unless it's like an N95 mask, unless it's like a mask designed to stop the bad things from getting into you, you're still up in the air. But I think if you want something cool, Black Craft, if you want something more functional, I'll put a link to this person. This person's been mass producing, and they've been shipping pretty quickly. I think if you order something on like a Monday, you might get it like that Friday or the following Monday, which, considering that they're just mass producing, they're just shooting out as many as they can right now, that's pretty good. And it's a Houston company, so I don't know. I think the uncertainty of everything is still just really the thing that's driving a lot of this, and whether or not people will be able to not have a mask out in public. I think some people already are, and that's another political issue for another day. Unfortunately, it's political, but I'm going to be wearing a mask. I'll be wearing one of these. So far, I think it's always just buyer beware. Don't assume something's going to be good or something like that. These are the choices I've made, and I think so far they've been pretty good, but I think cloth is your way to go. Disposables are nice, but remember, you can only use them for a very short period of time, and you gotta chunk them. You can't reuse them for ultimate safety. I don't know where this is all headed. Nobody knows. So at least have a little bit of protection.